Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm going to do a video on showing you guys how to test a switch. I have three style of switches here. This one is a household style AC switch, just a 2-pole. Very easy to test. This is a more automotive style. This is a two-way switch, so if you switched it up here, you'd have power to one side of the switch, and then that would be off, and this would be power to the other side of the switch. So you could run two accessories off one switch. And this is a very simple, very basic push-pull switch with two connections on each end. Now, each switch is different, but the way to test them is very similar through switches. So with this being a household switch, only having 2 poles on it, or 2 connection points, whatever you want to say, and this has 6. But the concept of testing these two is exactly the same. And the way you want to test them is with a voltmeter. Now I have 2 styles here. This is an analog style and this is a digital. And it's all up to you on which style you prefer. I prefer digital myself because you have for continuity, you have an actual test for audible continuity. The analog is nice because you get to see the needle move, but it's not quite as, let's say if you're in a bad spot under a car and you're trying to test a switch, this is nice because you can hear it beep. So let's go ahead and show you guys how to do the switch. Okay, so I'm going to start with the digital meter here because most likely this is what most people have. So you want to go ahead and power your meter on, and this setting here, it looks different on each voltmeter, but you'll see this symbol, it looks like a weird, almost like a horseshoe. That's ohms, and you might just go to 200 ohms for your meter, or if you have this option on yours, this is for audible continuity. You can tell because it's got the 3 little waves there. And that little mark up there, don't worry about that. That's for testing diodes. But you want to go ahead and turn your dial. So you get to that option there. Like we're set. You'll see this has a 1 on it. Don't worry about that right now. And let me angle this up so you guys can see that better. Whenever you have a multimeter, the first thing you want to do when you're checking continuity or switch is you want to touch your 2 ends together. You want to make sure this zeroes out or as close to 0 as possible. Direct 0 is optimal. That means it's got full continuity. And like I said, you can hear that little beep. Take it off, you don't hear it anymore, and you'll notice that display goes away. So when you have a 000 on your meter or close to it, that means you have full continuity. Continuity being connection. That would be as if this wire here, this red wire, let's say, if you had a cut in the middle of this wire and this was 2 halves, this end and this end would not have continuity because there'd be a loss in connection right here. Or if it's squished real hard and the wire breaks inside, sometimes the loss in continuity is not always visual. Sometimes it could be a failure inside the wire. Not to get sidetracked, but just a little thing on continuity. So we're going to start with this push-pull style because this is the most simple style of switch to test. And this switch here, actually I have it out here because this one is bad on one side, and I want to show you guys what happens when a switch is bad. So we're going to go ahead and start with this push-pull style. So what you're going to want to do is you want to put each end of your meter or your leads on both ends. And right now the switch is off or open, and once you pull the knob back to, let's say, turn the lights on, because this is a light switch here, you'll see our meter zeroes out and you'll hear that audible beep. That means this switch is good, and we'll go ahead and shut it off. You'll notice we won't get a beep, and then we'll go back to the 1. So that's how you test a push-pull style. It's about the easiest switch in the world to test, and the same thing goes for the household switch. Go ahead and put both of your leads on both the gold terminals here. Go ahead and flip your switch on, and you'll see we get the same result. So that's with the digital meter. Let me go ahead and show you with a analog meter. So same thing, you'll notice that this meter set up a little bit different, but there's ohms. Sometimes it'll be labeled ohms. It won't necessarily look like the upside down horseshoe or right side up, whatever you want to call it. So for this meter, we're going to set it to R times 1, which is 1,000. Go ahead and set that down, and we're going to go ahead and test this push-pull switch. But before we test it, like I said, you always want to touch your leads together and make sure that your needle's moving. And this meter isn't quite dialed in. Go ahead and set that down. You can see this meter is not quite dialed in. So on these styles, you actually have a little adjustment on the side. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that guy up just until that needle is sitting on the 0 when I have the leads together. And that is good right there. So like I said, once you let go of your leads, goes back down, same concept. It goes all the way to 0, meaning full continuity. So with this style of meter, analog, same concept goes. You want to put both your leads in the spades. Now it doesn't matter on this style of switch if red's over here and black's over here, or black's over here, red's over here. It does not matter with this style of switch. So you'll want to do the same thing. Put both your leads on. Go ahead and pull your switch. You can see your needle move. Let me go ahead and get that a little closer for you guys. Switch is off right now, or open. Go ahead and pull the switch out. Making the circuit close, you'll see the needle sits right on 0, meaning this switch is good. So this style of meter is nice for the visual aspect. If you were to test a switch and you have half continuity, if your meter is tuned right, it's nice to say, hey, maybe this switch has some corrosion inside and the continuity is not the best. Same thing goes with the digital style meter. If you don't get a full 0 reading, but you do when you have your leads touched together, that could be a sign. Let's say if I touch my leads together and this came up with a 0.10, that could mean that inside that switch there's some corrosion, some issues going on, and I'd like to open up that switch or just replace it because those are cheap enough and see what you're getting there. So let's go ahead. We'll go with our analog meter on this one. Let's go ahead and test this style switch. It looks a little more complex, but I promise you it's the same concept. So what you're going to want to do is these center two would be your power coming in. So you'd have a power on this side or ground, whatever side that you're switching. You'd have a power here and a power here. This would be 2 separate circuits coming into the switch, or the same, but most people do 2 separate circuits going to these switches. So we'd want to have one lead on the power coming in, and the switch lead would be whatever side you want to test. Either you're going down, which would be this top post here. You'll see on our meter, let me move this out of the way. You'll see on our meter, our needle is spiking. Go ahead and center this back out. You'll see our needle drops. And the other side, same thing. You'll just go the opposite way of the switch that you originally went. So we'd go up this time, and you'll see our needle goes to 0. So I went ahead and I pulled apart the other style of switch, that push-pull style switch, because the other two-way one was just a bit complex and it wasn't a clear understanding of how switches work inside. So I wanted to show you guys this side. This here is the stem. This is what the actual headlight knob would attach to, and this is the part that you would pull on to actuate the switch. And this is the other side of the switch that had the 2 connection points on it. And these two work together, and I'll show you right now. So you'll notice the contacts in there and the contact pad on the actual stem. Now when this switch is in an open circuit or no connection or continuity, you'll notice it's very hard to see, but down in there, that contact pad on the stem is not contacting these 2 contacts on the actual switch itself. Once you open this or turn the lights on, you pull this out, pull it out just a little bit to where the switch is activated, right there. Now you'll notice, I know it's very hard to see in there, but those contacts on the actual stem are now touching these. And that makes sure that your power, let's say your power came in here, or your ground, will go through the contact on the inside, this one here, through the stem contact, and onto the other side, giving power to your lights or whatever accessory you're powering. It's a very simple concept, and this is the way most switches work. There's some more advanced styles, but your basic switch from this to this will all have a contact attached to the stem and 2 contacts here. When you flip it, these 2 contact points, if it's a 2-way or a 2-pole switch, will make contact sending whatever power or ground you want. It's very simple. It seems a little more intimidating at first when you're first getting into electrical, but once you actually pull it apart and see it, you're like, oh, I get it now. So yeah, not too bad. I appreciate you guys watching this video. Hopefully it helped you out. If you liked it, please leave a like. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe, and thank you guys for watching.